and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season. My name is Dan, and the first double game week of the season is afoot. So we do need to start thinking about some transfers for Game Week 7. So, tier list today, as we do every Monday. If you enjoy this one, drop a like if you do like it even more, and you haven't done already, do subscribe as well. Let's have a look at this tier list. Alright guys, so as usual, we're going to be ranking the 30 most popular transfers at time of recording on this tier list into these 5 categories, depending on how good they are as a transfer. Not how good they are as a player, but as a transfer. Got to think about the fixtures as well, guys. And we're going to start off with the 30th most popular pick of the week. People bringing this guy in. And I have to say, I can't remember the last time a player who hasn't returned at all yet this season has been so popular. And that is going to be Højlund. And for that reason, I can't put him so high right now. I feel like now is probably not the right time to go for Manchester United players. They're not doing that well, really. A little 1-0 victory against Burnley, and that was the good fixture. So I am definitely going off those Manchester United guys, and with the good fixture out the way, I do feel like we maybe need to start kind of looking forward to maybe some different options. But I do appreciate that Højlund is still going to be an option with the lack of forward options going around at the moment. A lot of conversation about which forwards you should go for. I don't know if I go for Højlund necessarily, but he would not be very high on my tier list. Crystal Palace is a tough fixture as well, so not massively feeling that one. We're going to put Archer in the optional category straight away as well. For a 4.5 million forward, he is the best one to go for right now. I think we all probably agree with that one. You're probably not going to waste a transfer on him, but if you're on a wild card, maybe he could work. Or if you're trying to restructure your team and downgrade one of your forwards to change your formation, then Archer would probably be the forward I would downgrade to. So he can go in there. Let's continue the trend of forwards with Ollie Watkins. I guess you could go for him. He has finally got his first goal of the season. He did wait until everyone sold him before he did that, but the fixtures for Aston Villa are about to turn very, very nice indeed. So I do feel like very shortly we will be having a closer look at the Aston Villa players, and Ollie Watkins is probably one of the players you might consider. So therefore, I'm going to stick him in the good transfer category, but no higher than that. I'd like to see a little bit more consistency in his goal scoring this season before we can rank him any higher, but he definitely is a player we should be keeping a close eye on right now. Next up, another forward, of course. Awani, first blank in forever for him against Man City, but you probably expected that would be the time it would happen. If it was going to happen against anyone, Man City is a tough fixture to score a goal in, isn't it? So yeah, with that out the way, the fixtures aren't amazing for him and for Forest in general. Not quite yet. The fixtures don't get really good until a decent amount of weeks still. So maybe it's still too early to go in on him, but I guess he's still an option. I don't mind him as a pick, but he wouldn't be top of my list. But 6.6 million is a fairly decent price for him. Udogie, I'm going to put in the avoid category. Same as I put, Udogie and Romero last game week. I said I didn't really like these guys as picks with the Arsenal and Liverpool fixtures back-to-back. After we get this Liverpool fixture out the way, then fair enough, go for Udogie. But unless I'm on a wild card, I would not be putting him in my FPL team right now. So wildcarders, yes, fine. Bring in Udogie. Probably stick him on your bench for now. But unless you're on a wild card, I would be leaving him for now and kind of trying to focus my attention on other defenders to bring in, particularly those Newcastle guys that we will obviously be speaking about in this video. Edouard has picked up a minor injury. We're not too sure if he's going to be available for this weekend yet. So as of time of recording, until we get some more information about Edouard, I feel like we probably need to avoid him. So we'll put him there. But definitely a player that I would think about bringing in maybe in the short term, like in a few weeks. We might be thinking about bringing him in a little bit more. But the fixtures, again, for Crystal Palace, kind of mixed at the moment, so I'm not massively keen. Diaby, similar situation to Watkins, although maybe I slightly prefer him, to be fair, because he's a lot cheaper. He goes in that 6.5 midfielder slot, roughly, 7 million midfielders. You might be able to downgrade nicely to Diaby. I really like him. He's playing out of position, playing essentially as a striker, isn't he? And he's getting involved in a lot of what Aston Villa are doing. And like I say, the good fixtures are coming very, very soon. And in terms of making progressive midfield transfers in your team, Diaby would be a player who I'd be having a very close look at. Obviously, he was in my wildcard video that I uploaded yesterday. Do go check that out if you haven't done already. But Diaby made that squad, so I do feel like he is one of the best options at his price point. Next up, we're going to go Dan Burn, and I'm not going to put him any higher than a good transfer. And the reason is because there are just better options in that Newcastle defence right now. But to be fair, Burn is still 4.5 million. So he's slowly getting cheaper and cheaper compared to some of the other Newcastle defenders, which does increase his appeal. I still am of the belief of two things that put me off Dan Burn just a little bit. Number one is that he is probably the most rotation risk of the back four, the primary back four at Newcastle at the moment. And the reason is because we do have, obviously, Lewis Hall at the club. There's been calls for Dan Burn to maybe be dropped or rotated from Newcastle fans right now. And with Champions League games coming up, heavy fixture kind of schedule coming up for Newcastle, he would probably be the first person to be sacrificed. But he's had a lot of game time so far. I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign. I just feel like in the next, I don't know, 5-10 game weeks, we might see Burn drop out the Premier League squad once or twice. Not massively, but just a little bit, enough to say, all right, probably go for someone else. And I know he did score at the weekend, and that was very, very good for all Dan Burn owners, but it has to be said, Dan Burn, despite his aerial presence, he doesn't really score very often. In fact, he only really scores 1 goal per season during the time he's spent in the Premier League. He's now scored his 1 goal of the season in this season. So is he going to be able to break his Premier League goal scoring record and score a second? Maybe. There's always a chance, isn't there? But it's not something that we can necessarily expect to happen. So for that reason, again, good transfer, but no higher, particularly compared to those other Newcastle defenders who we're going to cover and will go a lot higher in this tier, let's believe me. Next up, Anderson. Don't really like the upcoming fixtures for him, so I'm actually going to say he is going to be an avoid. Not really a defender I would be looking to go for right now, despite the fact he has done pretty well. I do like the Crystal Palace defence, but with defenders, particularly defenders that don't have a huge amount of attacking potential, and of the Crystal Palace defenders, Anderson probably does have the most attacking potential. Still, it's not enough for me to want to buy him for a difficult run of fixtures. I would be focusing more on the fixture difficulty when I'm looking at defenders most of the time. So yeah, for that reason, Anderson's going there. Unless, of course, you know, a defender has insane attacking output. For that purpose, I would maybe include them a bit higher, even if they had tough fixtures. But for Anderson, not really. Fernandes, look, I guess he's optional. You're always going to get penalties from him. You're going to get set pieces from him, but he's pretty expensive, and I know he scored well in game week 6, but in general, he's been a player that we've all been kind of thinking maybe we should be removing him soon rather than including him soon. So I don't feel like he is a player who I'd be looking at too strongly right now. If you already have him, fine. He is possibly a keep, possibly, but he's also a player who I would be willing to sell if I had him in my FPL team right now, and I do have him in my FPL team right now, and I am willing to sell him if that kind of became an option to me. So I'm going to put him in optional. He's a fine pick. He's definitely okay to have in your team, but I don't know if I'd necessarily buy him right now. James Tarkowski, a goal and an assist at the weekend. There's always one, isn't there? There's always one defender that randomly gets a massive FPL score and everyone rushes to buy them. However, Everton are still Everton. Tarkowski's not going to score every game week, and yeah, even though the next couple of fixtures are okay, after that it does get significantly worse for Everton, and I would probably be looking to sell him even if I brought him in for the next 2, and that assumes that Everton are going to be able to keep clean sheets, and even against the, even in the best fixtures, Everton still don't seem to be able to keep that clean sheet. So it's a really difficult situation for all Everton defenders, and Pickford as well if you have him as well. Just would not be looking to go there right now. Avoid. Areola, it's not a bad game week to go for Areola, really, is it? Sheffield United up next, so for that reason, maybe we do have to think about going for him. In terms of goalkeepers right now, he would be pretty high up my priority list. Whether you're on a wild card or just looking to replace a goalkeeper that you currently have, you could probably save a bit of budget, downgrade to Areola. That could possibly be a little good thing to do as well. So for that reason, good transfer. As far as goalkeepers go, not too bad. Foden, yeah, good haul this week, but yeah, he's been really a mixed bag, Foden. I am a little bit worried about rotation with Grealish set to be back next game week, so therefore, I am not massively keen on putting him any higher than a good transfer. Man City's fixtures are getting worse as well from here on. After this game week, the fixtures do go downhill, so again, yeah, a player who is a consideration. You could go for him, but yeah, I wouldn't make it too high up on my list. Unlike Mo Salah, who once again cheesing at the penalty points, but we take them all as they come. Whether you're getting penalties from Bruno, Saka, or Salah, you're happy with them regardless. They all count the same. So yeah, Salah definitely a decent transfer to go for. I am only going to, once again, put him in good transfer, and I know I'm going to get ridiculed for this, as I always do whenever I say anything slightly the negative about Salah as an FPL pick. Mostly the Liverpool fans are not happy with me at all. And I definitely appreciate that if you are a Salah owner already, then you should be very pleased to own Salah. The problem is, if you're buying Salah, you have to make significant sacrifices. And the sacrifices are going to come in the ways of, you're probably going to have to sacrifice a Son, you're probably going to have to sacrifice a Saka, you're probably not going to be able to afford to get a player like Trippier. So, in isolation, I always say this, in isolation, Salah is the best midfield pick in the game. But as a transfer, as a player who does kind of throw a cat amongst the pigeons in your squad structure, he does mess things up a little bit and causes you to sacrifice things, and you're probably going to have to take a -4 hit in order to get him. That is what puts me off him a little bit. So still a great transfer, still a great player, and still a player who is going to get you FPL points if you have him in your team. But you might find that you can get maybe 2 players for the same price as you would get Salah, and actually make a few more points from your combination of 2 good players rather than 1 excellent player and 1 not so great player. So it's going to depend on your structure. It's going to depend on how you want to work your team out right now. It's going to depend if you have 2 free transfers in your team right now as well. Lots of things that are going to impact whether or not you go for Salah. For me, he is not a must-buy. I don't think you have to have him. If you're on a wild card, I would try and get him into your team, but if it's not possible to get him and all of the other players you want in, then maybe you have a decision to make there. So it's a controversial one, Salah, at the moment, and I feel like a lot of people are going to have different things to say about him. And as always, guys, I'm really, really curious to know your thoughts. Is it worth going for Salah when you have players like, Heung-min Son, when you have players like Trippier, when you have players like Saka, all scoring similar points or expected to score similar points in future game weeks, but you get them for a cheaper price, and by going for Salah, you might have to sacrifice one of them. Is it worth it? That is the question. Some of you guys are going to say yes. Some of you will say no. Leno, his good fixtures are running out. You've got kind of 2 okay fixtures left before the fixtures start to get a little bit worse for Fulham. So for that reason, I am going to go for optional on him. But still a fairly decent goalkeeper to go for right now. So he still would be fairly high on my list of goalkeepers I'd like to go for. Would I use a transfer on him? Probably not. Darwin I kind of fancy a little bit. I think he should be able to become a regular starter for Liverpool from here on, which would be very, very nice indeed. I feel like he's probably in Liverpool's best 11, playing as that central striker. He's much cheaper than Salah at 7.4 million. So therefore, yeah, a decent forward to go for right now. I'm going to put him right next to Salah in the good transfer category. Neto, yeah. He did well against Luton. That was to be expected. But that's, of course, we have Luton tax, sorry. Luton tax is a real thing. When you play an attacker against Luton, they do well. But when they play Man City the game week after, you probably can't expect him to get as many points this week as he did against Luton this week against Man City. It is like opposite ends of the spectrum, opposite ends of the table of Premier League teams. You've got the best fixture in the season, followed by the worst fixture of the season. So, yeah, no way I would be buying Neto ahead of Man City. If Awoniyi can't even continue his amazing form of continuous returns against Man City, then I don't think Neto can either. So he is going to go in the avoid category. You're going to put him all the way down here, unfortunately for him. Bowen, oh well, okay, we could think about going for Bowen, couldn't we? Yeah, Sheffield United next, and it's going to be nice to see another demolishing, hopefully, and be able to get involved in those attacking returns. So Sheffield United game, it's going to be a good one for Bowen, and yeah, therefore he will be fairly high on this tier list. I'm going to pop him in there. I'm going to put him in there. So not quite as high as the likes of Diaby and Salah in terms of midfielders, but still reasonably high. I think maybe the 7.1 price tag puts me off a little bit. And I do wonder, actually, when watching that Sheffield United game, whether actually it is going to be those set pieces where we kind of try and target them, because we have seen consistently this season that Sheffield United have struggled from those set piece scenarios, and maybe there's another midfielder from West Ham who might be able to help in that regard. Next up, Saka. Yeah, if I didn't already have Saka, would I be bringing him in right now? Not sure. On a wildcard, I'd take him. Bournemouth next, which is a really good fixture. I think he could do really well there. But after that, we have got the likes of Man City and Chelsea back-to-back. So is Saka an absolute priority transfer right now? Not necessarily. But because Bournemouth is next, I still feel like Saka, the form and consistency he's shown so far, I would still look to include him in pretty much any FPL team I was to make right now. So Saka is still going to be in the good transfer category, but no higher than that, just because of those 2 horror fixtures coming up in game weeks 8 and 9. Matty Cash up next. Yeah, not really sure about this next fixture for him. Could be a tough one. So therefore, I don't know if I put him in great transfer, good transfer. I mean, he would probably make a wildcard team, wouldn't he? But again, would you necessarily be desperate to start him this week? Possibly not. You know, you could maybe think about benching him if you had him right now. So I think he goes in optional. I'd be more inclined to buy him than a Dogi, probably, just because, like, long-term Aston Villa have some really nice fixtures, so I'm going to put him in the optional category. I probably prefer him to some of these guys, but not all of them. Plus, Cash has insane attacking output, more so than a Dogi, so I do prefer Cash a little bit to him. Next up, Gordon, and Gordon is increasing in temptation to bring him in, because we have obviously got an injury to Harvey Barnes, and that's, like, looking pretty difficult. Gordon's a really, really decent price, and if Harvey Barnes is kind of injured, then is that going to mean that Gordon is going to be pretty nailed on? To have him for that cheap price, in good form, nailed on, great fixtures, he's a pretty good buy, isn't he? He's a pretty good player to buy right now. So actually, yeah, at this price, if I'm looking for a cheap midfielder to go for, I'd probably be having a very close look at Gordon. So, yeah, I'm going to put Anthony Gordon there and see how he does. Another cheap midfielder is going to be Ward-Prowse. I'm going to put him next to Gordon. I slightly prefer him to Bowen just because that set-piece beauty, and also because the mixed fixtures coming up for West Ham in the future. Ward-Prowse is pretty much a fixture-proof player. He is going to, you know, get assists from those set pieces. He's going to score goals from those set pieces. We could see him on penalties as well. So, all in all, he's going to be one of those players that can get you points no matter what the scenario is. Kind of fixture proof. We like that. And again, really nice cheap price for him. So he's going to go in the good transfer category. We're going to keep filling up the good transfer category for now with Alvarez, who I'm not sure if I would go for him right now if I didn't already have him. I feel like last game week was the time to buy him. We've got one more good fixture for Man City before they do start to look a little bit worse. You are running out of time. If you're going to go for Alvarez, you are running out of time to go for him. But he's still on all those set pieces. He is still, you know, a player in very good form, looking really good. But soon, we're going to have two problems rise for Alvarez. It's going to be one, the fixtures look a lot worse. The fixtures do look worse, which means rather than 3 or 4 goals per game for Man City that Alvarez can get involved in and try and nick some of the goals from Erling Haaland, who's obviously always involved in the goals. But we're going to see kind of maybe not one, but 2 goals to get per game, which is still amazing, still really good, but it's just a less chance of Alvarez being involved. And that's going to start happening relatively soon, particularly with that Arsenal game in Game Week 8. Do you really think Man City will score more than 2 goals? Maybe, I hope not, but I guess we'll see. But more so, it's the rotation. We're going to have a lot of players returning from injury for Man City in the near future, and although Alvarez is still going to play most games, when you also factor in Champions League and Cup matches as well, a player for Man City, particularly an attacker, is not going to play every single game. We know this. This is just something that happens. This is just a Pep Guardiola effect on FPL. We need to acknowledge it. So, difficult fixtures coming up, and the prospect of rotation coming up is going to make Alvarez decrease in appeal the further we go on into the next few game weeks. He's still a good transfer. You're still going to get something out of him, and he's still a very decent price at 7 million, and the set pieces really, really help for Alvarez. But he is going to decline as an FPL asset from here rather than improve, in my personal opinion. Maddison, not sure what his injury situation is right now. Apparently, he's going for a scan on his knee after potentially sustaining an injury on it. He did play on, but I still am a little bit worried about what's going to happen for Maddison. I guess right this second, I wouldn't buy him, but I definitely can see a situation where by the end of the week, he's not in a void anymore. Potentially he'll be a buy, but he's a player I already own. I'm waiting for the news that to see whether he's going to be available or not, how bad the injury is. He might be a player we have to sell. That's the sad reality of it. So yeah, he's going to go in the avoid category. But yeah, if we do end up selling Maddison, I wonder who we can possibly buy. Maybe a Diaby, maybe a Ward-Prowse or a Gordon. There's lots of options right now in midfield that I'm quite excited about that are kind of a little bit different from the template that we've seen before. You know, Diaby, Gordon and Ward-Prowse and Bowen, these kind of players have not been template players really this season. So it might be an interesting opportunity to go in on them if we do get the worst possible news from Maddison. But I guess we'll have to wait and see on that bad boy. Kyle Walker is going to go in the optional category. Like, if you're looking for a defender, yeah, he's fine. Obviously, got the assist at the weekend. It's pretty rare to see Walker get those good attacking returns, though, isn't it? You know, he doesn't really get attacking returns very often, so I would call it a bit of a freak moment, not something that I would expect to happen every game week. He is more of a defensive defender, if you can call him that. So, yeah, he's optional. I just feel like good fixture this week, but after that, the fixtures do take a downward turn. So, yeah, would I even be looking to play Walker against the likes of Arsenal next game week and, you know, potentially some of the future fixtures as well? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I would want to play Walker against Arsenal or even, you know, like Brighton. I'm not sure if I'd want to play Walker in that fixture. So, yeah, it's difficult. He's doing okay. He's an option. I wouldn't be desperate to go in on him or anything like that, though. So, yeah, we'll put him kind of in this general area, I think. Right, next up, Carlton Morris. I'm going to put him in the great transfer category. Yeah, double game week, a really very much a short-term punt. And I would only really recommend him if you are planning to wildcard soon. But if you are, and I know a lot of us are going to be wildcarding game week 9 and 10, or maybe wildcarding now as well, if that's the case, then going in on him for his double game week, you know, he's on penalties. He is Luton's primary goal-scoring threat. He is obviously a player who is going to get 90 minutes every game. So a double game week is going to be very, very, very beneficial for him. We've got a good double game week against Burnley and Everton. This is the opportunity for Luton to start picking up some points. And if they're going to score goals, it's going to be Morris involved. You don't need anything massive from Morris, but for his price of 5.5 million and what he's, you know, going for Morris, where if you only have a little bit of budget to spend on an attacker, or if you can use Morris as an 8th attacker in your team that you can rotate in and out, I think these are the situations where I would really like to go for him. It is a good time to go for him, and you know, I've got a situation where I've got Evan Ferguson in my team. I probably need to sell him, don't I? Because I've made a mistake there. But who am I going to go for? Well, Morris looks like a pretty good option. I could go for several players. I could go for maybe Alvarez or, you know, someone else. Morris at 5.5 really, really tempts me. Really tempts me. I think it's kind of a nice, aggressive move to go for. It's differential as well. Not too many people will be going for this one, even though he is one of the most popular transfers of the game week. I feel like his ownership still won't get above like 10% this week. So, yeah, could still be a decent differential. Just double game weeks, you know, they make you a little bit crazy, and maybe that's exactly what's happening here. But I like Morris for a pick this game week. After this game week, he's going to go straight back in the avoid category. So a really nice 1 week punt for him, or a potential 8th attacker to rotate, or a player to wildcard out in a very short period of time. Kaoru Mitoma, I think he's okay. I think he's optional. I don't think I'd buy him now. I think I'd wait till game week 10 before going for him. I don't think there's any like strong need to get for him, get him. But he's obviously a player in good form, doing very well. Yeah, I just don't know if I prefer some of the other midfielders right now. I think there will be a time where we all own Mitoma again. That's not going to be quite yet, though, is it? And let's finish off with some of the real big players of the game weeks and players that destroyed game week 6 and will hopefully destroy game week 7 as well. First of which is going to be Trippier, who is obviously a great transfer. I mean, if you can try and find a way of getting Trippier into your team, then I would do it. I really would do it. We've got the evidence now. Trippier is back on set pieces, creating for his teammates. Clean sheets on the cards for Newcastle all over again. That's back-to-back clean sheets for Newcastle. And we're going to get more in the future with some great fixtures coming up for them. Still a decent run of fixtures for Newcastle coming up. So therefore, Trippier, great transfer. Definitely a great transfer. I don't know if he's quite a must-buy, but he is very, very close to being a must-buy. Really, really like him. Heung-min Son, still think he's a really good transfer, great transfer in fact, so I'm going to put him here. Not quite as high as Trippier, but definitely if you want to get a midfielder right now, he would be the player I would be looking at. You know, we've got a fixture against Liverpool next, which I think is Son's kind of fixture. You know, I said the similar thing about Arsenal, to be fair. I said Sheffield United, you know, it could work out, but, you know, it's not really a Son fixture. Liverpool is definitely a Son fixture. We've got Luton and Fulham after that as well, which is anyone's fixture. It doesn't matter who you are. That's going to be a good fixture for you. So, yeah, if Son persists playing as the central striker, and he's getting it in behind the high line of Liverpool, then things are going to look pretty good for him, I think, even in this tough fixture on paper, I guess. So, yeah, like Son a lot for this week and beyond. Definitely a player I'd want for the next 3 game weeks. And finally, Botman. What a legend. Still a must-buy as far as I'm concerned. I kind of toyed with the idea of putting him in must-buy last week. I bottled it in the end and put him as the best great transfer, and still the best transfer of the week. But now I'm putting him straight in must-buy. I mean, yeah, there's no excuse really, isn't there? Getting attacking returns now. Actually overperforming Fabian Schär all season. I really thought Fabian Schär would have more kind of attacking threat. And maybe, you know, we've not had that many game weeks so far, so maybe Fabian Schär may come back and actually become the attacking threat we know he has been historically. But maybe Botman's time is now. Maybe it is. Yeah, but yeah, looking good for bonus points, looking good for clean sheets, super cheap price. You can get him for almost 2 million cheaper than Trippier. If you can't get in on Trippier because he's too expensive, then Botman would be the player I would go for. Whether you're selling a Chilwell, whether you're selling another defender you don't like, a Gusto maybe, if you can afford to go for Botman in those scenarios, then I would. If you can't afford Trippier. So Trippier, if you can afford him, Botman if you can't. There's no excuse, though, to not go for Botman. I know right now, guys, you have a defender in your team that you would be willing to sacrifice for Botman. What is your excuse? You don't have one. Get him in your FPL teams because Newcastle are going on a streak of clean sheets and Botman is going to be eating up all the points and I cannot wait for it. So that is the final tier list. That is what the tier list is going to look like in its completion. I think this is looking reasonably good. Let me know if you agree or disagree with my rankings and any other players that haven't been mentioned in this video. Let me know in the comment section and we will try and sort them out into their respective ranks as well. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this one, please do drop a like. Really helps out the channel. Do subscribe if you're new around here as well. We have got a stream coming up this evening. I'll do a stream at about 8 PM where we'll just go over the Game Week 6 action and talk about how we're going to navigate into the future. So join me on that stream if you want to. Get those notifications on so you know when the stream is going live. But it'll be 8 PM UK time. As well as that, guys, our Fantasy Football Hub is still, for the last game week, this is the final time they're doing their money back guarantee. So if you don't win your mini league, you're going to get your money back with your Fantasy Football Hub subscription, and this is the last week they're going to run that deal. So yeah, get involved in that if you want to. Still running a free trial as well if you just want to try it out as a little trial, I guess. But aside from that, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope to see a few of you guys on the stream this evening, and I will see you later, mates.